day. I'm kind of wandering around a little foggy, a little fugued. And then, you know, I have these moments of clarity where I can just be present and be useful and helpful and insightful, and then it wears off, you know. I can't tell you how many times my tutors, my teachers, my friends' parents would be, you know, you're so bright. How come you're having such a hard time? Like, what's wrong with you? And you tell a kid that enough times, and we're not talking like once or twice, we're talking like hundreds over years. You begin to feel like no matter what you do, you're missing a step.
By the time he graduated from high school, Jeremiah Burroughs was determined to find the step he was missing. So he made a deal with himself, 10 years or 50 jobs. If he couldn't figure it out after that, he would go back to school.
I did everything I could, from being a taxi driver, working in any fast food, delivery driver, you know. I got my insurance license and I got my real estate license right before the market tanked, but I really thought that I was doing something wrong. I was like, this is just not working. I wasn't getting the results I wanted.
Somewhere around job 50, Jeremiah landed in a job development center that helped people with mental health challenges and other disabilities.
I saw people struggle with the things I struggled with, but they had been given diagnosis, and I suddenly started putting it together.
So can you tell me a little bit about the difficulties you have with time? How does it show up in your everyday life?
When you're late, you become ashamed and embarrassed.
ADHD is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and it comes in 3 flavors.
There's an inattentive type that involves problems with paying attention and getting distracted. The hyperactive impulsive type involves problems with self-control and hyperactivity. And the combined type has elements of both.
The biggest myths and misconceptions are around that it's a boy thing and they'll grow out of it.
In fact, ADHD affects men and women in equal numbers. It's just more likely to be diagnosed early in boys. In the US, more than 6 million children from 2 to 17 years old have been diagnosed with ADHD. It's common, but complex. Genes seem to play a role, but they're only part of the picture.
If you meet a child with ADHD, it is highly likely that one or both parents or their immediate relatives, grandparents, siblings, also have ADHD, whether it's diagnosed or not. And there's many adults who end up seeking a diagnosis of ADHD after their children are diagnosed.
My oldest son was in 1st grade, and he was failing math. And I knew he knew math. I couldn't understand it because I could go to take him to the grocery store. He'd sit in the back of the cart, and I'd put 2 bottles of soda in the cart, and he could tell me what their total was. I went to the teacher and said, you know, I don't know why he's not doing well. And she said, take him to the doctor and see if he's got ADHD. And the first thing the psychiatrist said was, well, you need to read this book about ADHD. And I read all night long, even though I had to go to work the next day. And every few minutes I would have an aha moment. It's like, oh, now I know why I do this. Here you go, baby.
Fawn was in her 30s when she was diagnosed with ADHD. She'd spent a lifetime struggling to direct her attention to the right things at the right times.
I'll go to the store and buy mushrooms to put in the spaghetti I'm going to make for dinner. And that's the only reason I went there, was because I wanted mushrooms for my spaghetti, and make the spaghetti and sit at the table and realize I didn't put the mushrooms in.
People with ADHD have all of the input that all of the rest of us do, but their prefrontal cortex, which is the decision-making, has a terrible time filtering out unimportant stuff. And so they're slower at it. And so a lot of stuff is coming in, so they talk about having racing thoughts and being redirected and distracted by other things. And it's really a brain effect, that the brain is having a hard time sorting and filtering what things to pay attention to. And medication, if people decide to try medication, helps that part of the brain be in a more effective and faster filter.
Medication is just one way to treat ADHD. Like the disorder itself, the medications are controversial. That's because they're stimulants, like cocaine, that can be highly addictive. But for some people, they can change life for the better.
It made an amazing difference. My production doubled at work. Up until I was diagnosed, I was probably close to being at least put on notice, if not fired.
I feel like I've gone on like a trolley ride and I'm above the clouds. So I have a view of things. I can see it, I can make plans. But when I don't think to take it, and I joke that I need Adderall to remember to take Adderall, if I don't think to take it, I don't get anything done. At first I thought, this means that like my entire life is gonna be unmedicated. I'm gonna be like living a half life. But I started going to meetups and stuff with other ADHD people, and I met this really great woman named Christine, and she talked about ADHD like I'd never heard anyone describe it. She didn't look at it like it was a disability. She looked at it like it was a superpower, and it gave us the ability to look at things from a different angle and to come at things differently, and casting it in that kind of a vision changed how I looked at it, and it didn't feel like I was afflicted anymore.
In a sense, Christine might be right. Some researchers have embraced the hypothesis that ADHD is an evolutionary adaptation to life as a hunter-gatherer. In earlier times, it might have conferred an advantage. When humans settled into farming societies with less physical activity and less daily variety, ADHD traits like hyperactivity or novelty-seeking became less and less favorable.
We have evidence that certain genes are directly involved in what we call ADHD, but they have their roots in migration and human evolution. Under conditions of scarcity, it doesn't pay to delay. So if food's scarce because people are attacking us, take the money and run. If you don't know whether it will be safe right now, then maybe move to find another place to go. So you can see there's a cascade. We have genes that equipped us to try new things, to solve new problems. We have a behavioral context in our natural environment for growing up that is not the way humans evolved. We have a food supply that is not what humans were supposed to eat. ADHD, the way we see it today, is this mismatch.
For Jeremiah, Fawn, and so many others, having hunter brains in a farmer world comes with some challenges, but it also comes with gifts.
They're often very open to new and different things. They're ready to take on new projects. They like fast-paced action because they are seeking novelty and they're seeking to keep their brain engaged.
ADHD people have no fear.
They don't like that.
If I'd known when I was in school, I would have made better grades. I might have even gone to college, but I wouldn't be here today where I'm, and have my wonderful husband that I met because of the things that I did. I got divorced and moved to, I moved to Las Vegas and didn't know anybody.
We've been, taught that everyone has to fit into a box, and we're not box people. I have this gift, this ability, and I can use it in the best way possible, but it's gonna come and go. And so I have to plan it out. It's kind of like a harvest. I have to plan when I'm gonna get ready and plan when I'm gonna reap it up. And we'll see how things work out.